Welcome to today's presentation on building a strong post-go live foundation. My name is Jason Buckingham. I'm one of the team managers here, and I'm going to be discussing with you today just some of the key considerations you should be thinking about as you're approaching go live or even after go live. And these areas are going to revolve around planning for support within your organization, planning for update and maintenance, ongoing training, and enhancement planning. So whether you're going live or have been live on Business Central, you have firsthand knowledge of the complexities involved in implementation. Today's focus is not on the implementation itself, but how you sustain value after go live, how you protect the investment you just made and build a strong system that stays stable, secure, and continuously improving. All right, the first area we will focus on is just planning around support. So now that you're using your system in a production environment, you're likely to have questions, experience issues, and identify areas for improvement and change. This is not uncommon, but what will help you maintain a positive experience in these events is to ensure that you have a thoroughly thought through and communicated a plan in your policies regarding requesting help. Things you should be thinking about are, what are your short and long-term plans to sustain support? Does it make sense to have an internal tier 1 support person who all the cases are routed to first? Will support be directed to Stone Ridge as your support provider, or will only certain individuals be authorized to submit support cases? Take the time to consider a strategy to address system issues, answer questions, and how to route enhancement requests. If you are considering having a internal support or tier 1 support, level 1 support within your organization, whether that's an individual person or a team of people, I have a couple of supplementary slides that talk about building a really good triage guide to help your users know where to go for help. And then thinking through what are our major risk areas and how you can deploy telemetry and then report off of telemetry. And then just talking in generally, be thinking about the benefits of building an internal knowledge base, right? As you're running into issues, you don't want to have to keep solving the same problem over and over again. But by maintaining a database that's searchable or your tier 1 team or your individual users can access, can really help them troubleshoot and resolve their own issues as you continue to get used to operating this new system. The supplemental slides, we're not going to spend a lot of time on these, but I do have some examples about a triage plan, some of the things you should be thinking about, and just laying this out on the different types of issues and who to contact in those different scenarios. I also have a supplemental slide here talking a little bit about telemetry and system health, and a link to a blog article that will bring you to a more detailed discussion on what telemetry can do and how you can report on it using Power BI. The next area I want to talk about is updates and maintaining your system. Because as updates are not optional in Business Central if you're on SaaS, they are part of the platform. The difference between smooth updates and stressful ones is planning. Your update plan should fit into your business activities and include enough time for adequate testing in a sandbox, learning and understanding what's changing, and having a clear idea of what our go, no-go criteria is, or what your success criteria is. In that plan, be sure to leave enough time to resolve any issues or questions before scheduling the update to production. I generally recommend your update to run about 3 weeks. So just kicking it off by making sure you have a fresh, up-to-date sandbox. Make sure that all of your extensions are loaded, all your ISVs are loaded in that sandbox, and the data is relatively fresh. And then schedule that sandbox to be updated. You can schedule your sandbox to be updated at a separate date than your production update. So get that sandbox updated and then have your users go in and start testing. Again, giving enough time for them to report any issues, and then we can address those issues. Or if you're doing it internally, you can address those issues. Make sure that all the resolutions are communicated and noted, just in case they have to be replicated during your production update. Once all your success criteria is met and you've passed that go decision on going to production, you can then schedule your production update, again, fitting that in so it's minimizing the interruption to your system. Now, Business Central does have two major releases a year. There's one that comes out in April, and there's one that comes out in October. All your other months outside of those major release months are minor release months. They're a little bit lower risk, less hands-on than the major releases. But ultimately, you have about 6 months to get the updates completed from that release date. If you're not getting notifications when these updates are available, please reach out to us. There is a setting in the Business Central Admin Center to set up who gets notified for these events. And it might just be that the right person isn't set up who should be receiving those notifications within your organization. Great. So one of the reasons, that this is so important is having a well thought out plan turns updates into more routine maintenance instead of these major updates that can interrupt your business process. You all have jobs to do. You don't want to be interrupted or interrupt your users with user acceptance testing, especially at crunch time. I recommend waiting at least until the second month in the release cycle to start the update process. But you definitely don't want to wait till the last month, right? Shortening that window and making it like a crunch time event. Come up with a plan and then execute against the plan as it fits your organization. The other area I want to talk about is ongoing training. Training doesn't end at go live. You've made significant investment in implementing your ERP. So take the time to protect that investment by documenting your procedures and preparing training criteria, training material. It's good practice to also routinely review your internal procedure material and training that's available. Processes change, new functionalities coming out 2 times a year. You constantly want to be making sure you're thinking about this training material and keeping it up to date. I know it can be a big lift, but some of the things you do need to be thinking about is if you need to hire somebody new, replace somebody within your organization who's performing key functions in that ERP, how are you really going to train somebody else on the process to do that job? It happens. Sometimes there is turnover. And really the only way you can protect that is by documenting your policies. Another key point to think about is ensure that your database of knowledge is not being retained in somebody's brain. We see this as well, where you may have a system expert within your organization and that person ends up leaving the organization. Obviously, they're taking that knowledge with them in most cases. Document everything, and then SharePoint is a much better tool to use to maintain that database of knowledge. Things do happen, and again, it's just protecting the risks and making sure that your system can remain stable, your business processes can carry on. It's also going to be a big benefit in user acceptance testing for updates. By having your processes documented, it's much easier to build testing criteria and testing scripts when you're going through UAT, and you can pull in more resources by providing that material or that training. Another big area that I want to ask you to consider, spend some time considering, is your development strategy. Because it's not uncommon after you go live in your system and things really start working within Business Central, you're now using the system, real life business scenarios are showing up, or your organization is changing and you need to evolve the system to fit those needs, or there's new features coming out that you want to take advantage of. Really sitting down and identifying who the key stakeholders are in any situation where you may identify a gap in your system that you want to enhance or you want to implement new features. Work through your business processes together as a team, making sure that everybody has a voice, that you're able to clearly understand and document your functional requirements and how the system is going to help work in that business process. And then Let me jump back here. And then at the top of that, if you have multiple gaps or multiple needs of your system that it's just not hitting, filling in all the gaps, make sure that you're prioritizing and creating a strategic plan. It's really easy to start down the road with 5 or 6 different requests of enhancement, and your users are going to they're going to get fatigued with change. They're going to get fatigued with testing. So just make sure that you're being strategic about how you're answering, how you're approaching developing your system and making changes. Always consider system impacts in the early stages of evaluating organizational changes, and engage with us as early as you can if you need guidance in that. We really would hate to see you have to backpedal weeks or months of conversations and planning business only to be held up by gaps in system functionality. We do recommend just reach out to us as quickly as possible, and we'll certainly help identify where the system can help you out. So how all these pieces work together, fundamentally what we're trying to do is we're really trying to reduce the number of surprises in your ERP. It's supposed to be a tool to help you be efficient in your business. It's also that these pieces are going to help you resolve issues faster, knowing who to go to, who to ask for help when you do run into issues. It's going to lower the risk of impact at update time as well. And it's ultimately it's going to lead to a better experience and higher user confidence. With all these pieces working together, they create a system that remains stable, secure, and continuously improving. So I wanted to thank you for just spending a few minutes with me talking about some of these key concepts and considerations. If you do have any questions, I'm going to stay on the line here just for a couple minutes, answer as many questions as I can. I will take away the ones that I can't answer and make sure that we follow up with you. But if you do have any additional questions after the session, please reach out. We're always happy to sit down with you, talk to you about strategy, help you develop some of these plans, and overall understand the system a little bit better. So thank you very much and have a great day.